Welcome to the I Get It Show, a creatively fun discussion focused on the pursuit of meaningful daily life. With a wide variety of topics, insights through celebrations, influencer interviews, and everyday life journey interactions. Inspiring you to pursue passionate happiness and discovering the simple aha moments in life that serve to power the journey of purpose. And now your hosts for the I Get It Show, Jeff Armour and Lindsay Lott.
Welcome back to the I Get It Show. I'm Lindsay.
Right. Hey, Lindsay.
Hi, Jeff.
What is going on? Look at you.
Same.
Right. We've decided, by the way, this past week we had a group meeting with everybody, our production meeting about the show.
I feel like
we
I was left out of this.
Well, yeah. And it was more of an intervention conversation. And we've decided to maybe start taking up a collection for wardrobe. What do you think?
Sure. I'm all for a handout.
I feel like you were in the same thing from last time.
Dang. Yeah.
Weird, right?
Yeah. Thanks for coming at me, pointing
Weird,
that out.
right?
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah.
I got a couple things in an Amazon cart, but
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole thing. And one of the things that we love to do, especially to begin the show, because we're following the saga that is Lindsay, as you guys know, the queen of new media's, dating life.
Oh, boy.
And so
There's
we wanted
no
to get,
saga, really.
I kind of wanted to get a little bit of an update on where things stand. Tell me about the flavor of men in your wheelhouse right now. What do you get? Who's coming at you?
I don't have any coming at me.
Are you a tall guy person? Are you like an average guy person? Are you like
this is my truth.
Like a dad guy? Like what is your thing? Are you into the bodybuilders? Like what is up with you?
So you might not believe me because a lot of people don't, but my truth is I don't have a type. I don't have a type physically.
Really?
I do not. I've dated all sorts of
They always say that.
different no, I know, and that's what I've dated bodybuilder types.
Oh, have you?
Yes,
Okay.
and I've dated.
Oh, look at you. A little difference in your voice when you said that. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right. all right.
And I've dated shorter men or taller. I don't really have one specific type. It's all
It
about
wasn't
the
really
connection.
a date. It was just kind of an encounter.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
So you dated the bodybuilders, but you had an encounter with a short man.
Is that right? Vertically challenged, we call them.
No.
It's not okay to say
That's
short
not
anymore.
true.
Vertically challenged. So then when it comes to connecting with somebody, are you do you take one person and then another person do you have a checklist? Like some girls will do a checklist of pros and cons. Do you have a pros and cons list?
I've been told that I should have a list of non-negotiables.
Okay.
And if the person has the non-negotiables, then that's not the right relationship to pursue. But if they don't have the non-negotiables, then just
So
see how it
then
goes.
if we were to come up with, say, top three non-negotiables,
You put me on the spot.
what would it be? What would you come up with? Right? Well, I mean, for God's sake, if someone walked into your world right now, you'd have to have that on the spot.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm not prepared. Maybe that's why I've been a failure at dating, because I'm not I don't have the
non-negotiables. What would they be?
Yeah.
What's a top? Just give me one then. One non-negotiable. They can't be dead. They have to be living.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Done. I feel there's two going through my mind right now, but I feel like I should not say them on air. So I'll
Interesting.
tell you later.
Okay. Excellent news. Well, and I'll be happy to share it with all of you. Once I find
I'm
out.
sure,
That'll be fun to
sure
find
you
out.
will.
Yeah.
That's how it
So
usually
then
goes.
when it comes to you in this world of navigation, right, which can be challenging, right? When you have gone through seasons of your life, depending on where you are listening, you might be in a stage where you're younger and maybe starting out with a really long-term relationship, and then others might be listening where your situation is where you had a long-term relationship and now you're trying to figure out what's this next phase of my life look like, and the things that I had in my previous relationship I don't want to have to go through again. But then there are things that I was really hoping for in that relationship that now I'm really would like for that to come together here. And so what it feels like to me is that it can often put us in a place of saying, well, here's this, there's A and there's B, or C or D or E or whatever. And I have to then begin to compare the two or three or four. Which one is better for me? Which one fits my list better? Which one meets my, criteria? How do you navigate that? Are you a comparison girl?
You mean comparing two people?
Yeah.
Two people I'm dating or something?
Right.
I
do
guess
you
I'm a
find yourself
comparison
there?
girl, but I'm also much more of like like energy girl. Like
Okay.
meaning like rather than sitting down and comparing notes like, you know, about the physical or the material or whatever, I'm more just like, what do I feel when I'm with this person versus
see.
what do I feel when I'm with that person?
So do you believe feelings are always factual?
No. No, they're not. They're not always accurate. And maybe that's like not
Is that part of the
necessarily a
challenge?
wise
Right.
energy, don't you think? Like energy and a
Energy? Yeah.
vibe you get with a person.
So then you're comparing
And, like, how
a
you connect
person's
with them.
energy against another person's energy. And if a person that comes to you, say you have two people, they're like, okay, you can only choose one. It's like love connection. Like Chuck Woolery goes, okay, the student audience has chosen which one, but which one did you choose to go out with? Right. So you've compared these three people, right? And then you choose one is how the show works. So then you're comparing
sure.
the video or the information you've swiped, whatever it is that you're doing, right?
I'm not doing anything.
So in that sense, this might be part of the problem, right?
I know.
So
I know,
then
actually.
you then have to make a determination on which one goes, and that comes down to comparing,
Sure.
right? And so, how do you compare?
How do I compare?
Yeah. What is the comparison process?
I guess I don't know.
Right?
I mean, I don't know. I
Do you feel like people compare all the time?
yeah.
Like
Don't you
constantly.
think?
We
Don't you
compare
think-
everything, right?
But don't you feel like when you walk in a room, you kind of size people up and compare where you
Right.
you fit in?
Yeah,
or
and
where
it's
you
dangerous because
don't?
comparison becomes judgmental to destruction, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think we can have judgment about things, but sometimes our comparisons will isolate people who really don't deserve to be isolated
Mm-hmm.
and elevate people who don't really deserve to be elevated. Like it's a whole thing.
Right, because
So how do you
comparison kind
compare?
of like makes like in your mind mentally put that person in a box, right? Like this
Yeah.
person compares to this.
I've
or
already
this
made this
experience,
decision
so
about
that's
you
who
without
they
even getting
are.
to know you.
Yeah,
Right.
right, and that's not fair.
Right.
Because like
You wouldn't want that to be done to you.
I've had it done to me.
Oh, no.
Like in high
How's that
school, I
possible?
was extremely shy.
Really?
And had like
You?
no self-confidence. And so people assumed that I was a bitch. And that's what I was
Right.
labeled as like my whole high school career. So that's not fair.
Yeah. We need
right?
a jar, Sean. We need a jar for Lindsay, a swear jar for
I got
Lindsay.
an old 5-gallon jug. We're going to be using that.
Right. We're going to have a really full jug. Right. Lindsay knows how to fill a jug. Am I right?
Okay. Well, I don't really know what that means or what you're
Yeah,
implying
5-gallon jug. We put money into a jug.
Well,
for
I
the
know
swear.
that, but I don't. I feel like there's some other innuendo that you've got going on.
I have no idea what
Okay.
you're talking about.
I don't either.
Yeah, sounds like
Most
you're
of the time.
comparing things again.
Right. Good night.
So yeah, so that's the thing for you. How do you compare?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's an important part of life. So I'm not saying we shouldn't compare, but what are the criteria that we should use in our comparison process to make good decisions, good choices?
Well, should we compare? Like, is there ever a time that it's like good to use comparisons?
So
Like, I
let's
don't
say,
know
for
there
instance, that
is.
you're going to go online on the onlines and you're going to look for insurance. What is the one thing that a company will say to you?
compare prices.
Right. So in that situation, comparing is beneficial.
Sure.
Right. So there's
Okay,
lots of
but-
reasons to compare.
Okay, but but like it just
If you were going to go
normal-
to university, you might get accepted to several universities. You compare which one works best for you.
Okay,
Right?
right. I agree with that. There is necessities for a comparison.
You're going to put your
then.
kids in gymnastics, for example, and they're really, really good at gymnastics. You're going to compare which place is best for training
Totally.
them
Right,
to maximize their ability.
right. Agree.
So that seems like another good reason. to
I
compare.
agree with you.
Right.
I would say,
Oh,
but I would.
That's very nice.
I thank you.
Yeah.
comparisons.
And then you go bum. Yeah.
Comparisons with others, like comparing like myself to other people or comparing people to people. I don't ever think is there ever a
Really?
time for that? Or is that ever fair?
I would seem there's many times for that.
Okay, tell me how, when, why.
Right. So, for instance, this show, for example, it's come out of comparison. Like the one thing that we talked about was how do we launch this cool podcast and who are the right people to do it and comparing who we would do it with. So there are many people I would not do this show with because they don't compare to you. Right. And I would assume.
Vice versa, yes, of course, obviously.
It's goes
Like
without
no
saying,
comparison.
am I
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. So you're saying it's not okay to compare unless the person is above what you're comparing.
Doesn't that seem
Did
like
I
what
say
we do?
that? No.
No, that's
no,
what
but
you You said that what did you just say, Jeff? You said that nobody compares to you. That's why I chose you to do it, which means you made a comparison, and it's okay because that comparison puts her in a favorable light.
Correct.
But comparison is only bad if it puts you in a negative light.
Right.
So we support.
It's only
upward
okay if it's
comparisons.
okay.
Right.
It's only okay if it makes me look good.
That's the problem, right? That's the thing. How do you compare? Because often we compare through our own lens, which may be clouded. Our lens, sometimes our comparison process might be skewed because maybe we're not the best people, the best person to compare what's best for us. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah.
See, my head's spinning a little bit.
I know, right? So
Because I would assume and take the stance that comparisons are never good. Like I don't want to be compared to anybody else. I don't want to compare you to anybody else. Like I want to have just like my own experience without those comparisons. But I can see what you're saying. That
how do you
at the
determine?
end of the day,
How do you determine where you are if you don't have anything to compare it to?
True, right? And your past experiences. Or what you usually use as a yardstick for that comparison.
Right. I mean, definitely there's good and bad in all of it. So I think the plan for today is to at least start the conversation about how do you compare and what is the right criteria to use or check in ourselves to be able to make the best decisions based on the comparison, whether it's with people or with things we want to do, careers, right? Where we want to live, what do we want to drive, like all those things, but it can be dangerous because you can have someone in your life that really cares about you and you have a good relationship, but then you compare them to something you don't have. And then you put unfair expectations on the person that you're with because they don't measure up to this thing that you really don't know everything about. You're just comparing the superficial things you see. You go, man, I wish I had that. And then when you get that, that's where they come up with the phrase, the grass is always greener on the other side because you're not there.
Well, because we always compare our other people's outsides to our insides, right? We never really know.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Like we compare somebody just like by their appearance, rather than like what's really on the inside of that individual.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Perhaps by the way, that your show moderator might have
I think that we
a
should
take on this,
check
right?
in with
Should we check in
B-Wise,
with B-Wise and see what's happening?
Sort it out a little bit. I'm a little confused, honestly.
Chris, how are you?
Hey, welcome back.
Long
by the
time
way.
no see.
Hey. So
to me.
So
I'm not be nice today. Be wise.
Be wise.
Be wise today. Yeah, we're making that change currently.
Clear stuff up today. I'm going to clear it up.
Good.
Quiet. Sean. So I want to circle back to the non-negotiables, Lindsay. I want to give you a tip, or maybe not a tip, but a suggestion for a negotiable. When I've been in business my 30 years, and so when I choose a partner in business,
what'd you do for the first 70 years?
Right. I learned.
Excellent.
Learning
70 years of study.
But when I do that, what I want to do is I want to put that person in a setting to see how they react to other people and to determine if I want to be in a partnership with that kind of a person or in a hiring kind of a situation where they work for me. And so the key component that I look for is kindness. We just did a show on this. And so kindness is the important thing. Are they kind to other people, or are they just jerks to other people? And so I would say a non-negotiable for you, just to put it in your things of things to be non-negotiable about, would be kindness. Kindness to you, but not only kindness to you, but kindness to your kids.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, those are non. Yeah.
I like that.
Comparisons. I think that comparison is a valid measurement tool. I think when we're comparing things that are unknown to things that are known, that's a good comparison because we can help explain that to another person. You don't understand the thing I'm talking about, so let me compare it to something that you do. So I think that's a good. But where I think it falls off the rails, and Lindsay kind of touched on this, is that when we're comparing people, then we have an expectation of what that person is that we've compared to. And I think then it goes from the figurative to the literal, and that's where it can fall in trouble because we don't measure up to that literal translation of what that person is. That person is super nice, super kind, beautiful, ugly, whatever it is. And then we have that comparison of that. And I think that's where we can really fall into a trap. It's like apples to apples, oranges to oranges, or what I like to say, apples to pineapples, but not at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also for those that are listening and hearing the action in the background, I think that's B Wise's microphone. Just heads up on that. I know.
Oh,
It was a
might be
whole
rubbing
thing.
it.
It would be very kind of you to not. Anyway, so then when we are looking to make choices, comparison is one of the key elements of making good choices, right? Or any choice for that matter. So how can we engage ourselves mentally to be able to put ourselves in a place of having that criteria to make good choices when we come to comparisons? Because often it's only just how we feel or kind of what is just visual. But what
Life's experiences, right? I think it's life's experiences. It's what we know.
Yeah. I think that I think that's really helpful to have experiences, and maybe even having people around you who have life experiences that maybe you don't have or have
Right.
more of to help be a counselor for you in those ways, right? So be wise. So in your vast experience of comparisons, have there been any instances where your comparisons led to, I mean, I don't have to get specific, but led to like detrimental things that happen? And what was the impact of that? And how did you change that?
Yeah, I'm currently doing this show. So, saying that was detrimental. But, the NFL draft is kind of an interesting way, because you look at these kids coming out of college. That's the time, the season we're in right now is the NFL draft, and I'm a big fan. But you want to try to draw a comparison of what this player is going to be like for perhaps your team. And so I think you find somebody that is a comparison, but then that can also be detrimental if that person doesn't live up to that comparison. They're going to be the next Peyton Manning or, whatever. So I think that could be detrimental for an NFL team.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Spending millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm like, my head's spinning with some of the things that you said, because I've always just kind of taken the approach that comparison's not a healthy thing to do with people in particular. But when you were saying, referring to like past experiences and using those for comparisons, I do that with dating. Like if that person has certain characteristics with my ex, that's like a red flag. And so immediately I'm like, I can't go down that path with that person. So that's like a healthy way to use comparisons.
Yeah, next relationship can ruin it for everyone else.
Yes.
Right.
No, like most things are forgivable, but there are some things that are just like, and I wouldn't have been able to recognize that in that individual had I not had the prior experience to compare it to.
Okay, I see.
So that's when comparisons. When I don't think comparisons is ever healthy or wise is comparing yourself to somebody else. Do you think there's ever a place for that?
Is that a bad thing?
I do think it's
there are many times in life when I have seen and observed people who are really influential or successful or at a higher level than I am. And I do compare myself to them in a way that says, what is my measure for where I can go? Like, I don't necessarily have to be that person, but are they doing things in their life that if I implement them in mine, that it would make me more experienced or give me more education or give me more influence, whatever that might be. And so at times I will compare myself to others, not for the sake of trying to be something I'm not, but how do I always be on a constant journey of improvement in my life? Because I don't think that we ever stay stagnant. I think we either go backwards or go forward.
No, I think that you just, if you are doing that, comparing yourself to somebody, like upward comparison, right, for inspiration or motivation or whatever, there just has to be a level of balance and resilience within yourself, because I think that can be a trap to feel bad about yourself, right? That you're not good, as elevated as that person that you look up to or whatever.
Yeah. So I had a discussion one time with one of my kids' teachers, and so my daughter had come home from school, and just in the course of talking, found out that the kids were kept in for recess all day. And I said, well, why would that be? Because two of her classmates didn't return their homework.
Ugh, that's irritating.
And so because two of the classmates of this large class didn't do their work, right, then everybody had to suffer the consequences. And so I didn't take that very well, because I was like, well, why should my daughter be compared to someone else who didn't do the work, she shouldn't have to suffer the consequences,
Agree. Yeah.
because it isn't a team sport, right?
Right.
School isn't a team
Yeah.
sport, right? So I think in life that often happens where we make determinations about someone maybe that we don't even know or haven't even met based on our past experiences, and determine that I'm going to make them achieve something with me first before I accept them for who they are. And that comparison
that
can
mean? What do you
often
mean
happen.
make them
Because I
achieve
think
something with you
we compare them to our past experiences in
Yeah.
a negative way, which puts them at a disadvantage automatically, right? Whereas sometimes I think we should be able to take people and see them where they are and take them for who they are, as opposed to just comparing them to negative situations. You're just like blah blah blah, or I think that we have to be careful about how we compare people to our circumstances. And that's what I'm saying. It's not an exact science. Every situation is different. Right?
Yeah.
Everything is.
And there has to be
We
a
could say that with a
balance and-
teacher. We could say we had a teacher. This teacher was awesome, and this teacher is really horrible. But maybe neither one of them were awesome or horrible. Maybe it was just the way that we perceive it, the way we receive it. But then we make a determination about them and their character based on how we feel,
Right.
rather than what the actual facts are. So
Right.
how do you compare?
That's true. I mean, I give people the benefit of the doubt, and to my detriment. Like
Very
usually,
kind.
yeah. But usually that's not always the best thing to do. I've come to find out. I get burned a
Yeah.
lot by giving people the benefit
Yes.
of the doubt. But I also, like
Welcome
you
in.
said, I don't want to like approach people and already have like a negative comparison in my mind about that individual. But going back to past experiences and like I was saying with the red flags, especially if you've lived through trauma, different traumas, then you have to have comparisons. You have to like view the world. Maybe you don't have to, but you do. Like your whole lens that you view the world for
Yeah.
is a little bit more hyper vigilant and a little bit more comparing like the behaviors of different people. And I think that is something that happens naturally as a way to protect us from like repeating some of those painful experiences. But
So then sometimes your comparisons are made to avoid pain.
yes.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, don't you
Okay.
think, or just like repeating past mistakes
Yeah.
or past painful experiences or whatever it might be?
Like I said, it could be all over the board, right? Comparisons. So when we determine for ourselves, for instance, if you wanted to go for this job you really wanted, right? There's an interview process. There's time you're going to show up. There's certain things that you may do that you don't do normally, right? You may dress differently. You may get yourself made up in a different way, right? Or whatever that might be. You're putting your best foot forward is what we like to say.
Right.
But that's not who you are in real life. And so someone's going to make a decision based upon that
That
you're
first
putting
impression.
in front of them,
Yeah.
not the person they're going to find 3 months from now.
Well,
if they hire
I wouldn't put like that. I wouldn't put that much effort into it. It wouldn't be that drastically different than who I really am. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. As often that's the way. It's like going on a first date with somebody. Now, granted, in your situation, it might be a little different, but most people, when they go on a first date to meet somebody, they usually put on their absolute best appearance.
Okay.
Right. Usually that's the best you're
Right.
going to get. Right.
True. That's as good as it gets. folks.
That's it. Right. That's it. And so you have to determine when you're comparing that best maybe isn't the best.
for you.
Yeah.
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 And that's okay.
Right.
Right. Maybe it's the best for somebody else.
Right. But then maybe you say that is for me, then come to find out that wasn't really
Right.
them. Right.
True.
Right.
So true.
30 days later, we find out the real person when they're not really get up.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
Now we
scary.
suddenly find out like,
Yeah.
this isn't at all what I
This is not what I
thought.
signed
This-
up for.
This does not compare to the person I met the first time.
This is not how you present it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That happens. I think that's a lot of online dating thing, right? The pictures that
Yeah.
are up, right, that people put up,
Totally.
are not the person that shows up.
Nope. That's 1,000% accurate, actually.
Right. And so isn't it better just to say, here's what it is in the beginning
Yeah.
and say, this is
Yeah.
what I am, who I am, and let's just skip forward.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, then you have ulterior motives that really don't seem to be that
Right.
profitable long term,
Right.
and ain't nobody.
And
got
how
time for
exhausting.
that.
How could you pretend to be one
I'm
version of
exhausted just
yourself?
talking about
Right.
it. Right.
Okay then.
Right. So then when it comes to comparing things that you want to make the best choices in your life, what are some of those criteria that we can maybe argue about that would be best to test our comparison choices? What are some tests that we can do? First, are we moving from just just selfish motives, like I'm trying to get something pleasurable for the moment, and the other person, that might not be where they're at. Is that something we need to be considerate of in making good choices? Is that just for this moment right now? If it is, fine, but what are we comparing that to?
Right. Yeah. I don't, as far as like tests, you said like what are some tests or what are we used to like know if we're making the right decisions in life? One thing that I do that I think is like a really good use of comparison is reflection. Like on a birthday or whatever holiday or whatever time I like remember to, I'll look back and be like, oh, look how far I've come this year, or look where I am now compared to where I was 5 years ago, or whatever it is, because it's easy to feel in life like you're not where you want to be yet, or you should be here or there, or whatever it might be. But I think that maybe the most beneficial comparison is just comparison to our past selves.
Yeah. So I had asked you a question, and I think that this is a really so I asked you a question a few weeks ago, and I think Be Wise was part of this conversation at some point, and so we'll bring him into that. So I had called you up, and I had asked you, and Be Wise, tell me if you remember this conversation, because we talked about it. Is I asked you, hey, how would you want people to see you? How would you want them to see you? When people interact with you, what would you want them to say who you are?
Yeah. Do you remember what I said?
And I believe you said, I have no idea.
I said I like to keep them guessing.
Right.
Like I don't want them to
correct.
know what they're going to get. Yeah.
Right. So in coming up with that answer, because that's part of it, is when people are interacting with you, they're going to compare you to something. It's just a natural course of life. So what would you want them to compare you to?
I don't know.
Right.
And I don't want to know. Like I would never ask anybody, like, what do you compare me
She doesn't want to know. Be Wise, what do you think? What do you find that to be true, that in life we try to navigate ourselves and how we can look against the comparison?
Oh, absolutely. I think self-comparison, Lindsay kind of touched on it a little bit ago, about she instantly went to a negative perception of a self-comparison. I don't want to do self-comparison, but it's a healthy exercise to do a self-comparison for your own growth, because you can discover your uniqueness. You can find out, where you differentiate from other people. You don't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be negative. It can be an absolutely positive experience. And I'd just like to remind you that your uniqueness is important. And if you've heard the saying, you're one in a million, you're a one in a million person. That's so unique. But if you're one in a million in China, there's 1,400 other people that are exactly like you.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily.
There's that. Yeah.
So the positive thing here that you can take away from that conversation, Lindsay, is that you're not in China.
There you go. Yeah.
Number one. But I do think. Do you think, Be Wise, that let's just, because we love to integrate our conversation with where the Queen of New Media is in her life, and so you said that she looked at that comparison as more of the self comparison is more of a negative response.
She did it first.
Yeah. Well, so the question is, I think that a lot of us do that in many different circumstances. Do you think that that's because we are fearful or want to avoid the possible pain of someone looking at us negatively? Is why we just self-sabotage up front, so that we actually cause the pain to ourselves rather than feeling the pain from somewhere else?
Wait, what do you mean? You're saying you don't want people? What are you saying?
So
we might
be negative about comparing ourselves. We might have a negative connotation to that because we don't want to take the risk that someone else will have a negative response in comparison to us. So we do it to ourselves. And then we say, I don't really care what anybody else says, when really it's just a mechanism to say, I don't want to be hurt by anybody else. So I'll self-inflict because I can control that part of the pain.
That's absolutely accurate.
It's
pain
more
and
of
pleasure.
Yeah. So then how do we remind ourselves then of when that happens to be more open-minded, more conscious of it, so that we can, because I think there are times that we miss opportunity with people because of that, don't you?
Well, mathematics has an equation for this, and it's an actual equation. It's an if-then formula. If this meets this criteria, then this happens. So maybe we can apply a mathematic equation to our own personal lives.
I
if
think,
then.
I think that's an important thing for you to do, Lindsay, is apply more math to your life. That would be
Yeah, more math.
More math.
I think that's a big takeaway for Lindsay today is that the problem that she has is she's not doing enough math. I don't think all of us are doing enough math.
Jimmy Buffett has a song called "Math Sucks."
That's like more my jam.
Who's Jimmy Buffett again? No, I'm
Jimmy Buffett.
just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Parrot heads are all crazy, right?
Right,
So then in wrapping up with you, Brian, when it comes to us making choices, we're often going to be put in a situation where we have to choose between one or two or one of many things, and we're going to balance and choose by comparing the pros and cons of those. Is there a secret thing we can remind ourselves of that would put us on a better path to making better choices in those comparisons?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're all on a journey of growth, right? It's progress, not perfection. And so if we just remind ourselves that this journey is just making progress and the growth, and then like Lindsay said, looking back, you can compare yourself of what you look like a year ago and how you look today. That's a positive look back. That's a positive growth step. And so I think that's the way you can do it.
Even if we look back a year ago and we're actually consider ourselves to be better a year ago than we are today, that things have really fallen off. Maybe that's a real good time to say, okay,
growth.
well, we recognize that, and now we can take the next step forward to be even better.
But you still have all those lessons that you've learned from things falling
You hear
apart.
Miss
So that's
Positive
still,
over here?
but that's still growth. Like
Yeah.
even if it looks or feels like
She's
everything
already
fell
grown
apart.
from the start of the show.
Look at that. This is real time growth.
There you go. Growth in real time.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's easy to pick on Lindsay because she's tons of fun, but I think that we all do the exact same thing. That there are times when we're scared to face what people really might think of us, and so we don't want to open ourselves up to that potential for pain.
True.
And so we'd rather not take the risk because the reality is that I think that most times there are more people that will be kind to you than not, right? To me than not. But there's always those
Always
people.
that risk. Well, it's a risk, right?
And
Just
then
like
we
anything.
have to live with the consequences of what someone else does wrong to us. And that's the biggest challenge with being forgiving to ourselves and forgiving to others, because that's the true measure of forgiveness, is saying I'm willing to live with the consequences of what someone else did wrong to me without holding it to their account. It actually frees us rather than releasing the other person. So I think when it comes to comparisons, often keeping the goal of saying, how can I make sure that I can improve my life in such a way that it allows me the opportunity to improve the lives of others around me?
Right.
Maybe that's the best choice that we can do when we're making comparisons.
I agree, right? Because that's like BY said, like that's what we're here for. We're all here to grow, and we're all like in different places in our lives, in different places in our journey. Yeah, but as long as we're continuing to progress, right? And then we can help others around us and through our connections progress.
I do. I think that's really cool about like what we're doing with the show, right? It's almost like therapy for each other, right? It's like we have this whole thing where it's amazing for our first show when we started and now where we are today. It's like this interesting dynamic is coming. I feel like that we are growing in different ways and understanding and being better for those around us because we were able to start working out these things. And that's what I would encourage those that are listening and watching along the way, is that there's an opportunity. It doesn't always have to be like groundbreaking. Like it doesn't have to be this great inspirational speech that happens every time. It's about these little steps that we can walk through together, that every now and again we have these moments where it just clicks with us and we go, oh, I get it. I get what's happening. I understand it, right? And that's the whole feeling behind what we're trying to create here. And you follow us and join us on social media and all those different steps. It's about, not that we have all the answers, far from it, really. In fact, we're just trying to work this out together and want you to come on the journey with us so that maybe there's some places along the way that you can either work out or help the people in your life to work out together. And I believe that when we do that, we actually grow better together.
Right, definitely. Like I don't have all the answers, probably very few answers. But I love learning from you and BYs and everybody. And I would love the engagement from all of our listeners as well. Learn from you and your experiences and thoughts and ideas on all of these things, because like you said, like that's how we will grow.
Yeah, there's an old Southern saying that says when you're engaging with information, that some's going to be good, some's going to be bad. And the Southern saying is, eat the chicken and throw away the bones.
Okay.
Right. And so
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
times when
Take
you
what- yeah.
take the meat of it that works for you, and you don't have to be, stigmatized by the stuff you just have to discard.
Right.
That's just not part of my meal. I'm going to move on,
Not
but
for
I'm going
me
to take
right
this
now.
and I'm going to
Right.
improve it. Right. Exactly.
Agree. Yeah. And I think there's something for everybody, and it's probably different. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll have different takeaways from
For
today,
sure,
and I'll
yeah.
have a different takeaway.
Yeah. I'll be
as
happy
well,
to
but-
compare this to other shows when it involves you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure you will.
Right.
You will let me know.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you'll find out. You're going to learn today,
I'm
as my friend
gonna
Kevin
learn
Hart says.
today,
Yeah. You're going to learn. Yeah.
But that's good. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the
sure.
opportunity. So
Yeah.
good conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Please check us out on all our social medias. And like I said, we'd love your engagement
Yeah.
and not want to know your thoughts on all of these
Yeah, I
things
get
as
it.
well.
Show. Come and join us.
Talk to you
See you
soon.
next week.
Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to The I Get It Show. Witty and insightful conversations about nothing, discussing how our daily lives are influenced by everything. Feel free to reach out. TheIGetItShow@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, this has been The I Get It Show.